Hello everyone, welcome back to the Chance Malillo Show, and today we're going to be destroying 7 lies about abortion put out by the pro-choice community, and we're going to jump right into myth number 1.
A fetus is just a clump of cells.
The phrase "a fetus is just a clump of cells" really does no good because we are all clumps of cells. Whether you're a fetus, whether you're 1 day old, whether you're 50 years old, whether you're 100 years old, each human being, each individual is made out of cells. But just because you're less amount of cells does not mean you're less valuable. And furthermore, a fetus is a human being. Biologically. More in Persuade, the Developing Human, clinically oriented embryology states, human development begins at fertilization, when a male gamete and sperm unites with a female gamete or oocyte to form a single cell, a zygote. The highly specialized tochioponotes cell marks the beginning of each one of us as a unique individual. And Langman's Medically Embryology 11th edition states, development begins with fertilization, the process by which the male gamete, the sperm, and the female gamete, the oocyte, unite in giving rise to a normal organism, the zygote. So again, biologically, it is a human being. 90% of all biologists, again, also agree that it's a human being, according to Steve Andrews Jacobs' 2018 University of Chicago dissertation, which surveyed 5,502 biologists from a 1,558 institution worldwide, all voted that human life does begin at fertilization. And again, 95% of them are not Christians, not Catholics, not Baptists or religious. A lot of them are secular, but it is a biological fact that human beings do begin at conception.
My body, my choice.
Myth number 2 is often said pretty much the most out of all the other myths because it's the famous phrase, my body, my choice. The problem is, it isn't your body. It has a completely separate heartbeat, right? Different toes, different fingernails. Which individual person has 2 heartbeats? None. That's exactly why it is an individual human being inside of the human being, right? That's called a baby shower. The baby is inside the mother, but it's a separate human. It is not your body. It is the body of an individual inside of your body.
It's not a baby until it's viable.
Myth number 3 is often frustrating because medical technology keeps advancing every single year. And back in the 1950s, viability was much later than it is today. But obviously, we should not determine moral worth just on our scientific advancements because that would lead in a very slippery slope of evil things that would happen in society.
Abortion is healthcare.
Myth number 4 is pretty much debunked if you just look at the actual definition of what healthcare is. From the World Health Organization, healthcare is defined as refers to services provided by health professionals to promote, maintain, monitor, or restore health. Centers of Disease Control and Prevention states, healthcare includes activities undertaken to prevent disease, promote health, and treat illness. Everyone, abortion is murdering an innocent little child in the womb. That is not promoting one's health, that is not saving one's health, and that is definitely not restoring one's health because you are killing one's individual human being.
Abortion should be legal up to sentience.
Now, my question would be, what about a 20 to 21 week old premature born baby that was born without sentience? You see, the way that sentience is the ability to deploy a conscious experience, which is, for example, my ability to feel, to see, to hear, to understand what's happening around me. And the funny thing is, a 21 to 22 week old premature born baby, the thalamal cortex in the brain, which is the pathways necessary to feeling pain or feeling consciousness, aren't connected yet. So my question would be to pro-choicers, can a 20-week-old premature born baby be murdered because it does not have sentience? If the pro-choicer is going to have any sort of remorse or feelings, then obviously no, because it is born, right? It is a human. But if they follow their logic correctly, they will have to concede to infanticide because their moral framework follows it. Not sentience, okay to kill. Sentient, not okay to kill. 20-week-old premature baby, not sentient, logically follows it would be okay to kill that baby and commit infanticide. Another great argument against this point is What about baby Jax? Jackson Buell, also known as baby Jax, was born in 2014 with a very rare condition that he was almost had no brain tissue and no capacity to deploy sentience. But let's look at it. He lived 5 years and was loved, named, protected, and treated as a full human being. If you're going to say that because you do not have sentience, you could kill someone, could the parents of baby Jax would have killed him at 2 years old, at 3 years old, at 4 years old? He didn't have sentience, so why not, according to the pro-choice position? The other thing is, when you look at it legality terms, baby Jax was given a birth certificate, he was given legal protections, he had a medical team, he was treated as a patient. Harming him would have been known as legally homicide. He had full human dignity, he was baptized, named, and loved. So human appreciation and human value does not come from sentience, because if it did, then why would it be wrong for baby Jax to be murdered by his parents? And we could all understand that's wrong, at least for some of us, if you're not Peter Singer.
Is that I think that in some cases where infants are born with serious disabilities, the parents and doctors together should be able to choose that the child should not live.
That the child should not live.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
If you're against abortion, you hate women.
This is a very emotionally charged argument, so let's handle this with clarity and love. First of all, opposition to abortion is about the child. It has literally nothing to do with the woman. It's about protecting life in the womb, just as well as we should protect life out of the womb. Obviously, if you kill someone outside the womb, you go to jail. That's illegal, that's wrong. Why? Because humans have innate value. Just as a fetus in the womb, they have innate value. To kill them would be murder. Also, many pro-life advocates are women. You look at Live Action that was founded by Lila Rose, one of the most prominent pro-life speakers. She's a woman. Like, come on. Just because you are a man, a common argument is that because you're a man, you don't have a uterus, no opinion. But look at these women pro-lifers that are fighting for the rights of children inside of the womb, as well as outside of the womb. Another argument against this myth is that we agree with the protections of the woman in the world, and we also agree with the protections of the woman inside of the womb. Because if you're going to say that if you're against abortion, you hate women, no. It's actually the opposite. I'm fighting for a woman outside of the womb to be alive, but also for the woman inside the womb. What about you, as pro-choicers, fighting only for the woman outside of the womb, while I'm fighting for both of them? I think women should have the rights to life out of the womb and in. Women should not be killed. And one of the leading causes for women deaths is what? Abortion. There's around 100 million abortions every single year annually. Just because we have laws in place does not mean we should take it away just because people would do them anyways. For example, robbing a bank is illegal, yet people still do it. But we should not make it legal because people still do it. Just as abortion, that is a moral wrong. To kill someone besides yourself because of a human right is a moral wrong that we ought not to do. Just as robbing a bank is a moral wrong that we ought not to do. So we have laws to protect bad things from happening, but people will still do them. That does not mean that we should take away that law because people will still do that. Also, laws reduce what is perpetrated against it. When you put a law in place, for example, not robbing a bank, less people will rob banks because you have a punishment for that. Same thing with abortion. If you make abortion illegal, it will significantly reduce abortions and discourage it. Again, although people will still do it illegally, this saves much more millions of innocent children in the womb. And you still ought not to do it just because it's a law. Closing this out, I just want to say, at the end of the day, the question remains. This debate comes down to one question. What is the unborn? Now, if the unborn was like a germ that you had, or a cold, or the flu, or a cancer, get rid of it. But that's not true. The fact is, the main point is that the unborn is a human being, deserving of rights and protection, just as we are outside of the womb, and we deserve rights and protection. And if you're going to take on the pro-choice stance, that is so detrimental to society. You look at some of the most worst atrocities in human history. Where do they come from? Devaluing the human being based on one's own subjective interpretation on who's valuable and not. Nazi Germany. Abortion was actually provided and said to be good. You look at the Soviet Union, right? They were slaughtering people because it was socialist, but because they thought of them as less valuable. Now, human rights do not begin when someone is wanted, just like, when in abortion, just because they do not like the child does not mean that they should be killed. It begins with someone who exists. When you exist as an individual human being, you have innate human value given by God, and for someone to take your life should be a crime and should be banned nationwide. Thank you all so much for watching. God bless you all.